Radio.
Hey, it's another episode of Svelte Radio. Welcome, everyone. Hi.
Yay. Hi, how's it going?
This is turning out to be quite the recurring podcast nowadays. Doing one every week. It's quite a change.
Getting on a schedule.
Yeah, so today I'm joined by all of my great co-hosts, Antony, Sean, Brittany, you're new. Hello again.
Hi.
And we also have a guest today. It's Dominik. Hello, Dominik.
Hey all, how are you?
Good.
I don't think they can answer you, but I'm sure they're going to say yes. Or were you talking to us, maybe?
We'll answer for them.
Yes, we're good. Yeah, so Dominik is a Svelte core maintainer, I guess you could say. I don't know, what do you guys call yourselves?
Svelte
Well,
maintainers.
Svelte
Maintainer
maintainers?
is the term, I guess. We all have different areas where we contribute more or less. So Svelte core isn't really my thing. It's
Oh, yeah, right. I guess that's what it means.
So what is
with
your
core.
area?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's your area?
most of the time.
Actually, sorry. Before we get into that, let's talk a bit about who you are. Like,
That part. Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
I'm Dominik. I'm a 42-year-old German freelancer. I'm doing software development for more than 20 years now. And for the last 10 years, I've been freelancing, mostly for web front end. And yeah,
cool. So mostly working with Svelte then, right?
I wish. I actually started working with Svelte 2 years ago. And before that, I used to work with Angular and Vue a lot. But I actually grew a little bit tired of Angular and was looking for something to move off Angular from. And that's how I found Svelte.
And you used it and then never turned back like everyone else does, I guess.
Yes, it's literally great. I mean, I fell in love almost instantly, and you say the honeymoon phase doesn't last that long, but in reality, I'm still like head over heels, and every week there's something new, cool coming up where I say, wow, what's this? And like just the other day, I discovered derived stores from multiple stores where you can do really elegant data transformations that are fully reactive with just like 2 lines of code, where in Angular or React, you'd be writing spaghetti code over and over and over again. So
who doesn't like spaghetti though? That's a nice pasta. No, I'm sorry. I agree.
Yeah.
All right. So you got into Svelte by just looking around, being tired of Angular. So let's get into like what you do as a maintainer. Like what parts of the Svelte code or projects around Svelte do you work with?
Well, I started working with Svelte. I discovered hot module reloading and got in contact with Rixo, who is a great guy, and we all owe him for Svelte HMR, because this is what makes all this crazy stuff possible we are doing today. And I built something called Suite way back in the day for Vite version 1, before it was based on Rollup. It was a lot of hacking and ugly nights spent crying, and somehow I made it work. And then SvelteKit came along and used Snowpack initially, but after a while it switched to Vite. And then Suite turned into vite-plugin-svelte, and that's what I'm maintaining now. So this is basically how I became a maintainer, by building the Vite integration for Svelte. And
Right.
This is still what I do today.
Cool.
Pretty important part.
Yes, it is. And it's also a pretty used part. There are already over 20,000 projects on GitHub, depending on vite-plugin-svelte today.
That's nice.
Wow.
I guess most of those are SvelteKit projects, or?
It's surprisingly not. I think many of them are Astro too, and some of them are plain Vite plus Svelte.
Yep. Interesting to see that. I would have guessed that like all of them were SvelteKit, but that kind of makes sense when you bring in Astro and yeah.
I think it's an important thing that vite-plugin-svelte is distinct from SvelteKit so that you can use it to build stuff on your own and you don't have to use SvelteKit if you don't need to. But SvelteKit is great, of course, so you should use it.
I think we get that question a lot where it's like, is Svelte going to go away now that SvelteKit's here, or do we use Svelte still? And so making that difference that SvelteKit's going to kind of be the way forward, but Svelte is not going to go away is probably an important thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Yes, it's just a different thing. Like the React to Next and Svelte to SvelteKit relation, it's a bit blurry for SvelteKit that like overshadows all the cool stuff and the more low-level approaches you can still do. But I think in the future we will see more differentiation there.
It's probably like the naming SvelteKit. I don't know if that's a good or bad name actually, but it seems to be working.
It's a name. One of the hard problems in IT.
I thought that was just for variables, but yeah. Oh well.
Naming everything.
Yeah, it's hard. All right. Yeah. So
one thing I wanted to ask was, what made you bet on Vite so early? And I remember like SvelteKit when it originally came out was not on Vite. Maybe you can tell that story.
Actually, when I built Suite, before I did that, I experimented with Nollup, which is a hot module reloading version of Rollup, and also with Snowpack. And the first prototypes I had for working HMR were with Snowpack, but the APIs in Snowpack were very different. Like they built their own DSL to configure it, and they also went all in on ESM to the point where you couldn't use CJS, and it wasn't like their vision or the vision of Snowpack is broader and far into the future more than Vite ever is right now. But the reality of using current generation libraries and tooling, it's just that Snowpack doesn't work great for deploying to end users. So the bundling aspect of Vite and the better APIs made me use Vite for Suite. And back in the day, it was kind of hackish because Vite version 1 was purpose-built for Vue. There were no generic APIs, so I did a lot of ugly things like putting proxy objects into the config and waiting until they are called before populating them with functions. And it was fully understandable that SvelteKit said, this is nothing we can build a bigger framework on. But when Vite version 2 came out and they had this ingenious extension of the Rollup APIs, it was pretty obvious that this is something where you can build on. And looking at how even Astro switched from Snowpack to Vite, I think it's clear that this approach is what enables a broad compatibility to the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because I thought that Snowpack kind of switched focus on Astro to build out Astro. Like the team that built Snowpack is building Astro now.
That's what I understood, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Fred made Snowpack, right? So
yes,
they did both.
Yeah, so you would think that they'd use Snowpack for Astro, but then if they put their money on Vite, that's pretty good.
I think they found that reinventing the wheel is hard.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say I'm not sure if Snowpack isn't still a product of theirs and they want to keep driving it. It may even be a great thing to use in the future when everything is pure ESM. But until that future arrives and we can use HTTP 3 everywhere, it's just not feasible because of the huge waterfall requests that are going to happen and stuff like that.
I think.
Yeah, Snowpack got discontinued, and there was a notice about its discontinuation. And I think it's just because it is ultimately like it doesn't really matter to Astro. Astro is more of the main product that they want to produce, and I think Skypack they're betting heavily on. Snowpack was just a means to an end, I guess. And it's a pretty intense project to work on if it's not your main thing. So I think they decided that Vite was the way forward for them, and like you said, it is really generic now. I do remember Rick, so back in the day, he was very, very, very enamored of Nolup, or Nolup, what do you call it? But I never really liked Nolup because it seems like a copy-paste of Rollup with a few tweaks. It wasn't, independently a project in its own right. It didn't reuse things, so it was always going to be trying to keep sync with the Rollup project.
But, I haven't heard of Nolup before.
Nolup, yeah,
it's a pretty niche thing. I don't think many people have heard. No. And with Vite having a Rollup-like API, it's basically not going to be used anymore. But it's not a bad thing. I mean, Vite is there to stay.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun using Vite in general, just the fact that just importing stuff and then using something like Vite image tools to like optimize the images. Oh, it's very nice.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
I'm actually contributing to Vite a little bit as well. Not as much as vite-plugin-svelte, but some things like a tiny library called tsconf-check that enables you to load TS configurations without actually having TypeScript in your project. I'm also building Vite Ecosystem CI, which is a meta CI that builds Vite and then ecosystem projects like SvelteKit, Astro, and others, and runs their continuous integration tests to find out if Vite betas break anything. So
that's a nice idea.
There's, I'm doing lots of like things in the background where users may not really see it, but we all profit from it.
Yeah. Do you get to work on this as your job, or do you have a job on the side, and how do you find time to do all these projects?
Well, I do it in my free time. I'm a freelancer. I have clients.
Okay.
Actually, one of them is working with SvelteKit and Cloudflare workers. So it's nice that I can use the stuff I built. And cool. That's a dirty little secret of mine. I spend more time building tools on Svelte than actually using these tools. But my plan is to change that.
Is that a German thing? Because that's what Simon does as well, I think. He builds the language tools, but then doesn't get to use them as much as he probably wants to.
Yeah.
Maybe he does. Maybe it changed. I don't know. Yeah. So what's it like being a maintainer? Like, what's your being in the cool club?
It's nice. Feeling rewarding sometimes, like when you see these numbers of people using your projects or the cool discussions you get to have with people and getting in touch with all this awesome folks in the Vite ecosystem. But sometimes it's also a lot of work and overhead when you get issues. And recently, PNPM had a major release, and switching multiple projects to a new major version with lots of breaking changes is hours of work, and you don't get much benefit out of it. So sometimes it's work, sometimes it's fun.
When you have to modify YAML files, you have to do it in public, and it just breaks and breaks and breaks and breaks and breaks, and everyone's watching.
Yeah, debugging GitHub Actions is probably the worst thing in the world.
Yep. Every single watcher on the project is seeing you screw it up time after time after time.
You mentioned SvelteKit and Cloudflare workers. I just gotta ask you guys: Did you see the crazy announcements they did with the SQL
about the database
thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
So excited.
It's interesting. It doesn't sound very scalable, but it's certainly a database.
What do you mean? It's SQLite.
Sure.
We've talked about that before, right?
Single instance SQLite. Yeah, I mean it's nice.
Okay. For read-heavy applications, it's great. If you do any amount of writes, well, I think you should look elsewhere.
You'll do fine.
Let's see what the future holds.
Yeah. It's one of these things, though, is all the providers have like a database solution. I think not many of them have SQL yet, so it's nice that they provide that. I think that they're designed as a quick store of data, again, like read heavy, just because it's super useful to be able to do that. But I don't think they're designed that you build your entire application on that stack. If it's anything less than trivial.
But what if we could?
Yeah.
We'll definitely end up there. I just don't think that this is like, hey, you can just now host, like you can just build like Airbnb or something on Cloudflare, on a Cloudflare worker.
Challenge accepted. I'm going to build the new, the new Svelte Society website on there and use this and see if it will crash and burn.
Yeah, well, it's possible. It's certainly possible.
YOLO. Yeah, so enough about Cloudflare. So we invited you here today, not only because you're awesome and you do a lot of good work with the vite-plugin-svelte project, but also because you recently enabled a new experimental feature in the plugin. So maybe tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, there's been a cool plugin for Vite that allows you to inspect the DOM and click on an element and jump to the view source file called, I think, Vite plugin view inspector. And of course, this is a cool feature, and we wanted to use this in Svelte as well. So once we saw that, we started heading out to find ways to make it happen. And actually, there is a very great video of Lihao Tan who describes in great detail how the first iteration of this solution for Svelte played out. And you should probably stop listening right now, watch that video, and come back later to finish this.
Because finish the podcast
it's
first.
A great technical deep dive. There will be a link in the details. Check it out. So what this allows you to do is hover with your mouse over the dev page and click on the element, and it takes you right into the editor. So when you click an H1, you jump right into the source and can change its content in a matter of seconds.
Yeah,
it's like the nice element inspector of Chrome, where you jump into the DOM, but you jump from the DOM to your code editor.
Yep, very nice. So is that do you need a browser extension for that, or how does that work?
No,
I guess I should watch Lihao's video.
Yes, the video explains that. It's basically you need 4 things. You need to be able to know which line of code and which column in this line a DOM element points to. And you need a way to open the editor at this location. And then you need some UI for the user to make this happen. And this UI needs some code you have to load. So you need a little loader that injects code into the dev page. And a little quiz for you. What do you think is the hard part of that?
I wouldn't know. Like probably not probably not injecting something in the DevTools? Or is that seems like a suspiciously easy thing to do, but then probably isn't?
Yeah, you're right. What initially sounds hard is figuring out the code location. Like you have to dig into the compiler, work with the abstract syntax tree, find out the code location, and somehow find a way to bring it all back to the front end. Lihao's video explains it in great detail, what you can do. But fortunately for us, Svelte has a years-old feature that just gives this to you for free in dev mode. Every DOM node has a meta property where the file line and column are put as data points. So when you go into the dev page and inspect elements, you can just find __svelte _meta properties, and you know from which Svelte component source this comes.
That's pretty
tip.
neat. So you pretty much just had to enable it and inject some code to get this working.
Yes. The second part that should be hard but isn't is how do you open an editor from your browser? Like the browser can't do just process stuff. This would be a huge security problem. So luckily for us, Vite has an endpoint where you can just ask it to open a file for you, because Vite displays an error overlay with stack traces when something goes wrong in the dev server.
Nice.
And then you can click on this stack trace lines to jump to the file of this stack trace. And we just piggyback this endpoint and send them Svelte files. It just works out of the box. One line of code.
That's pretty neat.
This is two hard problems that are just given to us by Vite and Svelte.
Nice.
The third part is how to load code for you into the dev page. This is actually not so easy. So the second part that is hard is opening an editor from the browser, because you can't just do process stuff from the browser. That would be a huge security issue. Luckily for us, Vite has a feature where you just send it a file with a request and it opens an editor for you. This is used by the stack trace overlay, where you can click the stack trace lines and it jumps to the file. And we just piggyback on this functionality and send it a Svelte file, and it opens us the file in this editor. So we get two pretty complicated features basically for free from Svelte and Vite already. What's still missing is loading code into the dev application to make the request to open the file, and a nice UI so that the user can actually see what's happening.
Yep.
Loading the code is actually harder than you think, because it's Vite. Initially, you think you just import stuff and it works because Vite resolves it and everything is fine. This is not really the case from code you load from a plugin, because this is not part of the source tree of the application. This is hidden deep into a dependency of SvelteKit. And you can't just resolve it and it works. So vite-plugin-svelte does some trickery and use the equivalent for ESM for __dear name to just hardcore find the related file and read it itself instead of using Vite's resolve algorithm. But that turns out to work quite well. This is like the resolve hooks of Vite make it pretty flexible. You can do lots of crazy shit. One of my favorite features of Vite is virtual modules. It's not a feature of Vite, it's a feature of Rollup. Basically, Rollup is a work of some genius. I don't know who, but he's great.
Yeah, sounds like a good swell guy.
Yeah. Starts with an R, I think. I don't know.
That's step 3. Now we have code in the browser and we can open the file. Step 4 is have a nice UI. And what do you use to build nice UIs for browser interfaces?
I don't know, like Angular?
Yeah. What about React? I heard that's pretty great.
Yeah.
No, of course, we are using a Svelte component. And the great part about that is the plugin basically compiles its own UI and then serves it to the user. And
nice.
We made a small Svelte component. Basically, this was all the housework. I just took it and improved it a little bit to make the overlays nicer and added some features, like you can choose a corner where the icon is displayed and add a key combo for toggling it and stuff like that. And the end result is amazingly just 350 lines of everything all together.
That sounds like more work
styles,
than
the
that.
plugin, the UI, the whole integration. This whole feature is 350 lines. That includes formatting.
Cool.
So yeah, and if I wanted to, I could build a Chrome bookmarklet that doesn't have a fancy UI, but still opens the Svelte file in probably like 200 characters or maybe 300. It's the basic technique in it is so simple. I'm feeling a bit bad that I didn't see this for 2 years. Should have been there from day one.
Is there any browser specific stuff there that it wouldn't work in different browsers?
No, it works. It's just an HTTP request and some styling, and it also works with most editors. Like I use a Windows virtual machine to test it, and I don't have an IDE in there. If I do it and click, it just opens Notepad.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It uses a library called Launch Editor from Avenue, and this checks the open processes for running editors and prefers that. And after that, it falls back to an environment variable or the default editor of the system. So it's really flexible. It's so flexible, it even works on StackBlitz.
Could you imagine writing your code in Notepad? How horrible would that be?
Yeah. At least use Notepad++, right?
Right?
I dislike Windows with a passion so much that I boot the Windows virtual machine only when I have to. And to keep the virtual machine images small, I don't keep any software in there that I don't absolutely need. So for quick and dirty code changes, I actually use Notepad. It's
nice. Well,
Well
why
then.
not? I mean, if it works, it works. All right, cool. So this feature is very cool, and it's hard to convey via like sound how cool it actually is, but just like being able to click on the element and just get taken directly to like the correct file and everything, or even the correct line, I guess. It's pretty cool. So I think there's a tweet somewhere that shows this. I'm going to include that in the show notes. And then I think how do you start using this if you're so say you're using SvelteKit, for example? Like, how would you enable this? Is it possible, or do you have to?
Yes, of course. You just open your svelte.config.js file and add a new key in the top level called experimental. And in there, you add a new property called inspector and set it to true to use the default settings, or you can set it to an object and pass in options. The options are explained on the vite-plugin-svelte documentation. One thing I spend a little bit of time on perfecting is enabling and disabling it with a key combination. So by default, when you set it to true, you just have to press Meta and Shift or Control Shift on Windows, and it will enable itself. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can start using it. 2 lines of config and 1 key combo.
Sounds like I'm gonna need to update my SvelteKit version and
You don't have to actually update SvelteKit. You just have to bump vite-plugin-svelte.
Oh, right.
Oh,
well,
nice. Yeah, this is something I've needed for years. I mean, getting to the right component when you have lots of components can be hectic.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. You could almost ditch your editor in a sense. Like you could just work in the browser, and then you just I need to edit this file, and I'm just gonna click it here.
Yeah, it's actually very nice. Like if you are showing someone the dev page, and that higher up of yours says, "Hey, I want you to change this thing to say something else," you had to remember in which file this definition lived.
Yeah.
Now you just use the hotkey, click, change it, and due to hot module reloading, 5 seconds later, the new text comes back in the browser, and you can say you're done. Well, maybe you shouldn't do that, because once they see how effective you get with this, they'll expect more of you.
Oh, that's the dirty secret. You just make it look harder than it is, and then
actually it worked a little too well, because Svelte compiles third-party components too. You could actually also jump to node module files, like the client I mentioned earlier. They use Carbon Svelte, and when I tried it in that project, clicking on a Carbon component didn't bring me to the project where that component was included. It brought me to the node modules of Carbon. It was crazy. It worked too well. So I added an exclude mode where node modules files are not jumped to, because that's not what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Does it work with like, so if you have a PNPM monorepo thing, and you have your components in a separate package, I guess it would work just as well there.
Yes, as long as there's not a node modules directory in the path, they will be found.
Yeah. Cool. That's awesome. I'm gonna start using this all day. Any other ideas? Like what could you build into this? I guess it's an open question for everyone. Like what would be fun to add to this? Like features and other cool stuff.
That's suggesting it's missing something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. That is not what I'm suggesting. I'm just like, maybe there could be something cool like you could add. I don't know.
What about Visual Studio? Visual Basic mode, where you click on the thing, like you used to click on a button in Visual Basic, and it would pop up the code in like a modal, and then you could just edit the code right there and then press save.
Oh.
So all the handlers for buttons and stuff were all just kind of behind the button.
Oh,
I missed that when I moved to Delphi.
Just like edit it in the web browser, like tweak things live,
like a no code,
and you don't even
and then also it's super smart. So when you click on you click on a button or something, it just shows you the event handlers for it. So you kind of editing the button's behaviors.
Yeah, that actually this is not as crazy as
isn't it?
It sounds. It may be possible.
Wow, do it
with a custom endpoint. Like Vite's open editor functionality wouldn't cut it, but we could add a separate middleware that was able to do it.
Wow.
But Brittany is right. This inspector thing does one thing. It does one thing well, and I'd like to keep it that way. But that doesn't mean that we can't add similar tools that do other things and other things really well. We learned how to inject custom UI with the plugin now, so we can use this function to add more, and we will. I already have a couple of ideas. vite-plugin-svelte has all the compile data available in a cache, so we could have an AST viewer, stuff like that.
Yeah, nice. I think maybe I should edit out this new feature stuff so no one steals it before you get around to maybe building it. I really like that idea of just like, I don't know, like holding down like command and then clicking a node somewhere on a page, and it just like pops up an in-browser editor. Even just like you could even make it like, so all of these packages that people have made. So Rich made one, I think it's called the Svelte Nobby or something. And I think Scott Tolinsky made one similar to that. And there are others like they're basically like ways of editing state in the browser. So you can play around with your components. But like just being able to like actually edit stuff in the browser would be, yes, this is what I want.
Bring the crazy ideas. Talk about them on Svelte Discord. Make them happen.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I can't wait. That's seriously like, that's a very nice developer experience, being able to do it from the browser. But
yes, it is. Like if you do split screen with the browser on one side and your IDE on the other, you can go around really fast from both ways.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. All right. Any other things that we should mention?
Yeah, so the button, right? So when you click that button to edit the code, it could flip around and the code's on the back of the button. Okay.
Oh. And then it just like expands to all of the code.
Yeah.
And then you just click finish and it just flips around back. Oh, yes.
Exactly. And then like all the CSS is in there too, and you can just edit that as well. And
this is crazy.
Don't give them ideas. I mean, it's literally a Svelte component, this inspector. So a code editor could also be a Svelte component, and a flip animation in Svelte isn't that hard.
Problem solved.
So
yeah, that's true.
Actually, it can work.
Yeah.
So have lots of stuff to edit out.
Well, we just need someone to build this.
Yes, that's a problem because someone needs time to build all this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I heard Antony is pretty doesn't have much to do.
Oh days, yeah, so. Just a DOS, just an absolute DOS.
Yeah. You need a vacation, Maybe
I know.
Vacation.
Believe you me, I know.
Just joking.
It's on my list. It's on my to-do list.
All right, so you've actually done some meetup organizing and or maybe watch party organizing, you could call it. I don't know what's the scene like in Germany, the Svelte scene. Can you talk a bit about that?
That's a tough question. When I organized a viewing party for the last fall's Svelte Summit, there were still tight COVID restrictions, and
right.
So we had masking and mandatory vaccination cards and stuff like that. And there were 20 people maybe attending. It sounds like not much, but on pretty short notice. And the venue didn't hold turnout. Many more. So it was very nice. And I got to meet cool people and Simon for the first time, even though we only live like 40 kilometers apart.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's pretty nice.
Like Germany is this tight-packed country with not so long distances when you are used to the US or Sweden where things are more far apart.
Yeah.
Well, the UK,
like 40 kilometers doesn't sound far at all.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but
40
but other than that, I think, Svelte is still pretty much a dark horse in Germany. Surprisingly, Angular grew a lot bigger than everywhere else, it feels like, and React has a stronghold too. So, but it's gaining traction, and some pretty cool people are doing awesome stuff like the Hiksch from Spiegel with his data visualization. He did a talk on Svelte Summit. This is great. I'm sure there are more to follow. My current business plan is to do work with Svelte exclusively starting from summer. So
exciting.
There better be some German offers or I'll have to look internationally.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure everything's remote nowadays, right? So.
Yes, I can't imagine going back to consulting on site for 5 days a week. I've been doing this for years because German clients expected you to, but it's been proven that remote works, especially for IT stuff. So if they want me to travel to their location, they are going to have to pay.
Yeah, handsomely. How's I was going to ask you, Brittany, like how's the new job? Have you settled in yet?
I have settled in and I'm getting to play with SvelteKit a lot more, working with the adapter Netlify and figuring out we have some issues to work out. So, but like we said earlier, I think like using it and getting the kinks out is important. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm really liking it.
Nice. All right, let's move on to the next section. Unless you guys have other questions for Dominik, or Dominik, if you have something to tell us, or no? All right.
Well,
unpopular opinion. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I've been talking a lot, so
yeah, that's true. Well, not too much, I mean, but it's a decent, good amount.
You are the guest.
Everything just sounds so rude when I say it. I don't mean it like that. Yeah. All right. So, unpopular opinions. Do you guys have any? I'm sure, Antony, you must have one, right?
I don't have one today. I don't believe it. I don't know why I don't have one, but I don't have one today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't.
All right.
I'm all very, very genial and calm.
Is your hay fever gone, and so you're in a good mood?
No, it hasn't gone. I mean, I don't know. Actually, if I'm in a good mood, I think I have more unpopular opinions.
Speaking of hay fever, I have so I rent this office desk at a consulting firm that I used to work with a couple of years ago, and there's so many people who are they're like knocked out by hay fever medicines. Their desks look like you're in a drugstore, and this one guy, he just sits there and uses these eye droplets every 10 minutes. It looks horrible. I'm happy I don't have to deal with that.
That's my downstairs counter right now because I have a cold, so it's like the Sudafed and the nasal spray and all that stuff.
Yeah, colds are pretty awful. Oh yeah. All right. So no one has an unpopular opinion?
No.
Well, I guess actually I have one.
No.
But it's very specific to Sweden, and it has to do with purchasing and selling real estate. And Antony is holding up a Netlify sticker, and now Brittany is pointing at her stickers.
I love the cat one with the gem necklace.
I love stickers.
Sorry, we just talked about stickers for a minute.
Yeah. So all right. So my unpopular opinion. So it's basically here in Sweden, you do everything using something called bank ID when you identify yourself for services and stuff, and it's all digital, so you don't have to show your passport or your ID or anything like that, and that works very well. But for some reason, when it comes to real estate, that's not allowed because of some arcane rule that's in the some law that says that you can't do this. You have to do it in person and you have to be there. So this is not a nice experience. You have to actually meet people and sign contracts with a pen.
Huh.
I've heard that
horrible.
The UK's is worse. You only have one day to transfer your house, and there's chains of. You could be selling a house and buy. Oh my goodness! I can't even imagine that. It's crazy.
Well,
you can't own two houses.
Well, you can, but you just have to So the way it works here, I think is so on the day when you take possession of your new apartment or whatever, your bank transfers the money to the recipient's bank. It's very. Yeah, it is a bit weird. There's a lot of money involved, and so you have the buyer's bank sitting there, and you have the seller's bank sitting there on the line. So everyone's on the phone, and they're like, "I'm transferring the money now," and then hitting the button. Yeah, the money has been received, and then it's it's very very weird.
Ours is on one day. You sign all the paperwork and stuff, but you just take your deposit with a check, and they just accept it there, and it's done.
Right.
It's not a process.
Yeah. Well, that's
I can't be imagining it's that bad. Then the Germans, they have it. It's so complicated. The actual registry of who owns which property is controlled by the state, and you need notarized everything. And notaries, you pay them through the nose. Like, they get an actual percentage of the sale, and the housing market is through the roof, and the property market as well. So basically, if you haven't bought like 15 to 20 years ago and just keep sitting on it, it's a shit fest.
Yep. That pretty much sums up the situation here as well. So my unpopular opinion is that everything should just be streamlined, I guess. It should be easy. Things shouldn't be hard. Where's the user experience in these
unpopular?
processes? That's probably not unpopular. It's a rant. All right. So do you guys have any, or should we move on to picks?
Yeah, I have many, but I try to keep them to myself, because otherwise people might no longer like me, or like me less than before. But let's
sharing
share
is caring.
Okay. So you get one. I think all these cloud providers, they promise big, but for many users, they might get a bad case of vendor login, and that's not going to serve them well in the long run.
Yep, that seems.
I agree with that.
I don't think that's unpopular, but it's also kind of a rant. Well, not a rant. It's just
it's not unpopular here at least. It's not popular here at least.
No, that's true. That's true.
I think generally people are quite enamored with cloud providers. We'll never move from AWS or whatever else, so we can just lock into every service they have. But it's not good. It's not good if you do that at all. Yeah. It puts the ball completely in their court, and they can charge you what they like, and they can shut stuff down and screw you over. And it's not good.
Yeah. All right. So I think we have 4 minutes left. You guys have to run, I think. So let's unless Brittany, you have an unpopular opinion, let's move on to picks.
Not today.
Go. What's your pick?
Yeah, my pick is the Siren Stream and Talk. At the time of recording, it's tomorrow, but it will be out on the Svelte Society YouTube channel next time.
Last
you
week.
Listen to this. Yeah, last week. And we have Cloudinary, Tomas Piros from Cloudinary is joining us. And then Jacob is doing a talk on sanity with SvelteKit.
All right. Cool. So there are 2 talks.
There's a stream in the morning and then a talk in the afternoon tomorrow.
And then on the back of that, there's 3 meetups, isn't there? Might as well get those out of the way. So there's Stockholm, May 19th. Kev, I assume you're running that one. There's New York.
I do know that one.
There's New York, June the 1st. At Microsoft Reactor NYC, the location of the first Svelte Society meeting. And then there's London, May 26th, which obviously I'm running. Well, me and my co-organizers are running. We don't currently have any talks, so it might turn into a hackathon, which is pretty interesting, as we had a few people there at the last one from a startup it just got funding from Vercel, oddly enough, and they were doing some really interesting stuff. So hopefully they'll come along again and we can see what they're up to, because they're doing some crazy stuff with containers. So that's pretty exciting. Cool. And then I'll move on to my pick as well, since we're there. My pick is Reclaim.ai. It's simply a way to make Google Calendars useful, because I have loads of different calendars, and syncing across calendars is very difficult. It doesn't block out time on calendar B if someone else is looking at it. So Reclaim just synchronizes events from calendar A to calendar B and any other calendars you want. You can tell it to show details or not show details, just mark it as busy. It can allocate things, time for lunch, stuff like that. Lots of automations. So it's a really good way of keeping your work calendar filled with all your personal stuff as well, but in a way that just blocks out that time so that you're,
that's nice.
Yeah, it's decent.
How much is it?
Very clever. I think it's free for 2 calendars. If you want to get a team around it, and if you want to have all the extra features or more calendars, then you're going to pay a small amount.
Does it work for non-Google calendars?
I have no clue. I've just gone, amazing, click, done. But it works really well for what I'm using it for sure.
All right. Dominik, do you have a pick?
Yeah, my pick is the Vite and the Svelte community and all the awesome people doing awesome stuff there. I'd like to especially highlight Björn Lu, who's been helping me with vite-plugin-svelte. And he's doing awesome work for Vite as well. everyone keeping up with my antics and not shunning me for asking too many questions. Great folks all around. Come join us.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
That's a great pick. And I'm also quickly going to mention Sean's pick. He didn't get to say it himself, but it's Anaconda PyScript. You can now use Python in the browser, and it's built with Svelte. And we're going to have the creators on in a couple of weeks. So that's exciting. Cool. Tune in for that one.
Yay.
And so that's it for this episode. Thanks for coming on, Dominik. Where can people find you?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Dominik.
Can they find you on Twitter? Where are you at? In the Discord?
Well, you can find me on Svelte Discord. I have a GitHub profile. I don't do social media, so...
All right, fair enough. You're the person with the orange round profile picture, if that helps anyone.
That's how he has so much time. You're smart.
Yeah.
You avoid social media.
Yeah, it's very smart.
Yeah, it's very true.
All right, so I'll talk to you guys next week. And thanks for listening, everyone. And we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Later.
Bye-bye.